a treaty-based foundation, and a future-oriented people-to-people agenda.
And just now, we talked a lot about how the two leaders have known each other really well and how head of state diplomacy has contributed to that strategic guidance by the two leaders in terms of fostering and nurturing this relationship between China and Russia. In case you're wondering how this bilateral relationship could be further boosted to a new level this time when the two presidents meet, according to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, the two leaders will exchange views on bilateral relations and cooperation in various fields. The spokesperson, Guo Jiakun, said that cooperation in various fields between China and Russia has continued to expand and has brought tangible benefits to both countries and both peoples.
Right, and the plane is apparently still taxiing on the runway toward the reception area. And in a moment later, some senior Chinese officials will greet President Putin on his arrival. And ahead of the state visit, China has emphasized that the two countries will use this occasion to further advance the relationship toward greater depth and a higher level. And that formulation connects directly with the timing of the visit. Well, 30 years of strategic partnership we're talking about show the continuity of political trust between the two sides, and 25 years of treaty show the importance of a good neighborliness and long-term commitment here. And the launch of the education years shows that relationship is also looking forward to the next generation.
Yeah, and a lot of excitement, obviously, around the years of education between China and Russia starting 2026, because that will primarily involve the younger part of the population.
Exactly.
On both sides. And these are the demographics that will most likely embrace cultural communication, cultural understanding, hence boosting people-to-people exchanges between China and Russia. So we look very much forward to seeing the results of those exchange events and exchange programs in the sphere of education.
Right, and the relationship of the future generation is very important. And how popular is China-Russia relations in young people is of great significance, especially today. And Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson said today that China-Russia everlasting friendship would enjoy even greater popular support. And here's Guo Jiakun again making the remarks at a news briefing today when asked to comment on the survey conducted by the Chinese and Russian sides of the Council of Education under the China-Russia Committee for Friendship, Peace and Development on China-Russia youth friendship and cultural exchange among people aged between 18 and 35 in the country, is basically the younger generation. And the survey found over 80% of those surveyed view China-Russia relations as friendly. Well, Mr. Liu, based on the results of the survey, which is conducted in people aged between 18 and 35, quite a young generation, how they look at the China-Russia relationship. How do you see 80% of the young people supporting it?
Well, they enjoy the games created by Chinese, the designers, particularly Tencent, the owner, etc. So that's the public culture is really the most attractive to the younger generation through my interaction with the students from Russia and from also many parts of the Central Asia countries, which is very much understandable. And two is that the Chinese working relationship with Russia in terms of the Confucius Institute for them to learn the Chinese language, Chinese culture. That has also borne some quite of sort of fruits. And more realistically, it is really the made in China that is there to flood the entire market, given also the sanctions that can really deprive the access to the daily commodities, from smartphones to the e-cars, etc. And so the very much love China in terms of the market coverage, and also the Chinese brand is getting more and more attractive. And now the collaboration on the business side, from the entire supply chain, from manufacture to logistics to distribution, dealership. So these are there to work so much close when you really get engaged with each other on a deeper level, and you kind of fall in love with each other. So that's how romance can really develop between people. And so now I think there's going to be more educational programs that can really jointly develop, and also there are more of the sports that's there also to boost the younger generation to engage with each other for collective training and also friendly competition.
I just want to add that the Russian sentiment and perception of China has undergone a big transformation in my view. The image of the made in China products, for example, in Russia, used to be always thought as something sort of inferior to the European brands and American brands. Not anymore, I would say. I mean, if you look at the Russians' acceptance of the electronic products, cars, for example, right? Automobiles. Today, some of the Chinese brands' cars in Russia are actually priced pretty high. So I think that Russia has really sort of accepted the made in China products. And on top of this, I think in Moscow, for example, right now there's sort of a fad to study Chinese.
Right. Based on that kind of enthusiasm,
right.
I think President Putin's visit this time is going to be warmly welcomed, as we can see right now in the Beijing Capital International Airport. The guards of honor are entering the reception area and are getting ready to receive President Putin's 25th visit to the country.
And it looks like we're also seeing children, young children in uniform making their way to the plane. This is all very much in line with the tradition of welcoming foreign dignitaries, heads of state, as they visit China. And it looks like the plane has taxied to a complete stop there on the tarmac. We're looking forward to seeing President Vladimir Putin any minute now as the cabin door opens.
He's about to kick off his 25th visit to the country, and he's going to hold talks with President Xi Jinping on various matters of both bilateral relations and mutual concern and also international interest.
It's an ER-96 airplane. Yeah. It's a Russian-made, huge airplane.
And you can see, as you can see, a lot of media attention on this visit as well. A crowd of journalists and reporters there on site at the airport to cover the arrival of the Russian president, who landed moments ago to begin his two-day state visit to China. The Guard of Honor is in position. The children welcoming the president at the airport are in position. We're waiting to see the president any moment now as he emerges from the airplane.
Well, the two countries are major neighbors, and their relationship has a very strategic dimension, but it also has a very practical texture in it: bridges and ports, energy routes, and trade flows, universities, markets, exhibition, cultural programs, and local communities, etc. And that is why the idea of good neighborliness is not only a principle in the treaty, it is something that can be seen in everyday cooperation as well.
Professor Gong, let me pick up where we left off just now, talking about the education exchanges between the two sides. If you look at what a year of education can do, it basically encourages the exchange of personnel from both sides and what could be the result from that. We talked about the complementarity of trade between the two sides. What about education? Is that complementary also?
I can speak for our university. For example, we have a very close relationship with McGill University in Moscow, which is specialized in international relations, economics, and these fields. And as a matter of fact, they send their master level students to our UIB campus for 1 semester or 1 year, and the degree, the thesis of the master level students will be supervised jointly by one professor from UIB and another professor from McGill University. As a matter of fact, I have supervised a couple of students in the past. These are very smart students, and they came to Beijing and spent some time here, and some of them actually developed businesses over the years, benefiting from the relationship between Russia and China. So I think definitely in realm of education, especially higher education, there's close relationship. Our university also has a very good relationship with University of St. Petersburg. As a matter of fact, I'm actually going to go to St. Petersburg's International Economic Forum for a panel hosted by that university. So it's coming in about, I think, 2 or 3 weeks. So definitely, I can speak for myself, speak for our university, that really this kind of close cooperation relationship between universities at the higher education level is indeed happening between China and Russia.
Yeah, a good high...
Oh, he's coming out.
You can see the motorcade for President Putin is already getting ready to receive him. As we wait for the emergence of President Putin from the airport, the airplane door.
Exactly. I mean, we were talking about the quality and features of higher education, and one of them being the openness. I mean, students that do get a higher education do want to be exposed to the outside world. They do want to see more of the world through exchange programs. Professor Liu, can I get your thoughts on what the years of education might bring to both sides?
I think, they'll be increased in number, not only in students, but also in scholarly exchanges. And then more of the programs will be on the agenda, particularly in revising and updating the curriculum for joint development. And we do notice there has been rising interest in the cutting-edge areas like artificial intelligence and application in e-commerce and dealing even with futures trade, how to calculate ETF, over a stock exchange, etc. So this really are there, ushering a better prospect for each other to collaborate in the education sector.
Exactly, and President Putin is actually officially kicking off his official visit to China this year, and he is about to descend the stairs, appear at the door of the airplane and descend the stairs very soon.
You can see the presidential motorcade is ready there at the airport. A welcome ceremony, obviously they're ready to welcome visiting Russian President Vladimir Putin, and Foreign Minister Wang Yi there is at the end of the red carpet, rode out in honor of visiting Russian President Vladimir Putin. The Russian president flew into the airport here in Beijing just moments ago, and a full-on welcome ceremony is in session.
Right, and we can see a lot of young people waving the flags of both countries to welcome President Putin's visit. And as we just said, according to a survey jointly conducted by China and Russia, 80% of the young people aged between 18 to 35 actually welcomed the close relationship between the two countries.
And again, a reminder of what the two presidents might be talking about when they meet. According to the Chinese Foreign Ministry, the two heads of state will discuss bilateral relations, cooperation in various fields, and international and regional issues of mutual interest. That agenda is broad, but it is also coherent.
Right, and Guo Jiakun, the spokesperson, also said that China-Russia cooperation has brought real benefits to both countries and both peoples, and has also made important contributions to maintaining global strategic stability.
And for two major countries to maintain steady, predictable, and constructive relations is significant in itself. It provides continuity, it supports dialogue, and it creates room for coordination.
President Putin has officially started his visit to China. He was greeted by Foreign Minister Wang Yi at the Beijing Capital International Airport. And China has actually repeatedly emphasized the role of the two heads of a state in providing strategic guidance for the relationship. And that phrase, strategic guidance, is important because it explains how a relationship of this scale really operates. And we're looking forward to the bilateral meetings between the two heads of state tomorrow. And CGTN is going to keep you updated on all the developments.
Yeah, if you're just joining us here on CGTN, you're looking at pictures from the airport here in the Chinese capital, where Russian President Vladimir Putin has just arrived. The motorcade is now moving. A welcome ceremony is held at the airport in honor of the visiting Russian president. The main part of his visit is tomorrow, when he will be meeting with his Chinese counterpart. CGTN is staying on top of all the developments here and will bring you comprehensive coverage of the Russian president's two-day state visit to China.
Right, and according to China's foreign ministry, this is President Putin's 25th visit to China. And he also, the spokesperson also placed a visit in the wider development of China-Russia relations under the strategic guidance of President Xi Jinping and President Putin. And China-Russia Comprehensive Strategic Partnership or Coordination for a New Era has developed in a healthy, stable and deepening manner. And cooperation has continued to expand across many fields, bringing tangible benefits to both countries and peoples. And the relationship has made an important contribution to global strategic stability as well. Well, this year has three milestones, given the visit even greater significance. 30 years of China-Russia strategic partnership or coordination, 25 years of Treaty of Good Neighborliness and Friendly Cooperation, and also the launch of China-Russia Years of Education. And from tonight's airport arrival, the visit actually moves into its next stage, high-level talks, practical cooperation and continued effort to carry China-Russia relations toward greater depths, a higher level and more stability for the
President report here in the inlet. Let's get more. President Chinese counterpart. So can I just get maybe?
And views over the bilateral region. Second, they would further deep format of energy and other manufacturing to the Russia has to look to the east. China destination also a springboard to the other issue is that they will talk about how the treaties like the Shanghai Cooperation Group and now like the Shanghai Cooperation Group and now the BRICS platform. And so these are really the areas they can really talk about on a strategic level, and also to drive in-depth and hopefully to bring some practical fruition over such subtle cooperation. But having said that, it is really important that all the bureaucracies, in addition to the leadership's consensus, need really to be able to implement the directions and agenda set forth by those top leaders, because through my consulting process, the business environment, both in trade and investment in Russia, really have a lot of room to improve so that they can usher in more of the predictability of those traders and investors, and to be able to localize the operation and also to strengthen the further ties on the business cooperation, and to unfold more of the potential that is hidden over there.
Right, and more tangible results coming after that. And that's what the Foreign Ministry actually described the upcoming discussions between the two heads of states. And we've already seen some tangible cooperation between the two countries, especially at the border area. For instance, Heihe in Heilongjiang province recorded more than 850,000 border crossings in 224 alone, up by 127% year-on-year, after improved connectivity, of course, and the resumption of mutual visa-free group tours. And I want to mention especially the highway bridge called Heihe Blagovsk. The bridge is the first cross-border highway bridge between China and Russia, with made of a very kind of special steel, which can stand as low as minus 60 degrees, which provides a very convenient, much more convenient way for border crossing between the two countries. What does that example tell us about the tangible results?
Yeah, well, I think it represents Russia's strategic direction of further investment, upgrading infrastructure in the Far East. I would expect one major area that are going to be discussed, and I would expect to see some positive outcomes, concrete outcomes coming out of this summit, is with respect to some mega project, infrastructure project. For example, has been, the talk has been ongoing quite for some time for that Siberian 2 pipeline, right? I mean, the Yava Peninsula gas field, the production of the gas field has been pretty much the gas hasn't been sent to Europe, or used to be mostly supplying Europe, and it's very clear that Russia needs to divert this supply of gas to China and Far East. So I would expect maybe we're going to see some interesting and positive news coming out of that big project. Another very big project, in my view, is with respect to the Arctic shipping routes. This is another area that both countries need to work together to charter a new field, and I think this is going to bring big implications for the shipping transportation between China and Europe, and China with the other parts of the eastern part of Russia cities. So I think these are like a mega projects that I would expect that maybe could be coming out of this round of meetings, right? So I think that's a major focus in my view. Another major area of focus will be about international issues. Certainly, I think the conflict in the Middle East is definitely something that Russia and China are going to talk about and try to play a more proactive role in terms of mediating a peaceful solution for the conflict in the Middle East.
Right. The stableness of two major countries is of a very important significance to the international community indeed. And Russian President Vladimir Putin has arrived in Beijing. As we just saw, he received a warm welcome upon his arrival at Beijing Capital International Airport. Putin is on the state visit to China, running from Tuesday to Wednesday at the invitation of Chinese President Xi Jinping. And the two heads of state will exchange views on bilateral ties, cooperation in various fields, as well as international and regional issues of mutual interest. And Beijing says the two sides will take this visit as an opportunity to continue to promote the development of China-Russia relations to a higher level, ensuring greater global stability amid a turbulent international situation. And this is President Putin's 25th visit to China.
And China presented the Outstanding Diplomat Medal to 8 current and former foreign ambassadors in Beijing in recognition of their outstanding contributions to promoting friendship and cooperation with China. CGTN reporter Yu Yang has more.
Former Russian Ambassador Andrei Denisov, current Pakistani Ambassador Kauli Hashmi, and current Saudi Ambassador Abdullaham Al-Harbi are among the first to be awarded China's Outstanding Diplomat Medal. Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi said these outstanding diplomats are old friends of China who know and understand China and who have dedicated themselves to the construction and development of China's relationships with their own countries.
Well, I feel proud. I'm very proud. I'm very glad, and I hope that it is the recognition of the merit of not my own efforts, very modest, but of all my staff, of all my team, of all Russian diplomats, both here in China and in Moscow and all over the world.
I think it's a great day for Pakistan-China friendship also, so I dedicate this award to the people of China and people of Pakistan, and ultimately what we do as diplomats and what I do as a diplomat along with my team.
Another recipient, former Cambodia Ambassador Kat Kamli Sisoda, said Cambodia and China share a long-standing friendship. She reaffirmed her country's commitment in jointly working to build a Cambodia-China community with a shared future. And Saudi Ambassador Abdullaham Al-Harbi noted that both Saudi Arabia and China are playing leading roles in international affairs, as he believes bilateral relations have entered a historic golden era.
China has become one of the most good partner of Latin America, not only in Colombia, but the whole Latin America. And also, I think in the future, it will be better and stronger.
10 years, having discovered every single corner of China, all the municipalities, all the regions, all the provinces. It's a great honor. I have learned a lot with you. I keep the Chinese people in my heart.
Toward such kind of, and Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi, the aim is to promote friendship, cooperation, and personal countries.
Has been officials to discuss how uncertainty. Cao Chufeng reports.
Monday, investment 6 in Beijing has for country. Dong delivered a speech putting forward suggestions to economy.
First, international economic environment. Second, jointly cultivate new strengths for innovation-driven development. Third, jointly enhance the resilience of industrial and supply chains. Fourth, jointly advance reform of the global governance system.
Spain's second Vice President Yolanda Díaz-Pérez also stressed the importance of upholding multilateralism, outlining what she called 3 key.
Strengthen cooperation among the global business community to promote sustainable global development.
One of the key themes of the summit is the cultivation of new drivers of global economic growth, with guests emphasizing the importance of the healthy development of the technology sector.
Make sure that we use AI in the way that it benefits all of us. I think that is an engine to growth, ultimately.
Yeah, the new quality productive forces. And I think what that represents for the world is new technology, particularly around new energy.
At a time when the global economy is facing growing uncertainty, whether that is rising protectionism or geopolitical tensions, many here believe the answer lies in deeper cooperation, stronger connectivity, and new drivers of growth powered by technology and innovation. Cao Zhufeng, CGTN, Beijing.
But overseas institutional investors are showing growing confidence in China's equity market. Morgan Stanley has raised its forecast for major Chinese stock indices, including Hong Kong's Hang Seng, through mid-2027. The bank cites higher corporate profits, China's edge in upstream supply chains, and a stronger yuan. It also says rising demand for AI and energy could boost China's exports. Goldman Sachs has also raised its profit forecast for A shares from 16% to 23% this year. UBS securities analysts are bullish on China's non-financial sectors, especially tech shares, thanks to AI developments.
And as China celebrates its 16th Tourism Day, the country's travel industry is rolling out the red carpet to welcome tourists from China and overseas. In Guangdong province, local governments issued 10 measures, including travel-friendly city, cultural corridor, and infrastructure upgrade to promote the sector's high-quality development. Local industrial associations and representatives gathered in the provincial capital, Guangzhou, reaffirming their commitment to traveler-centered services. In Nanjing, in eastern China's Jiangsu province, the city took the day to launch a variety of new itineraries to inject sustained momentum into the local tourism industry. Northern China's Shanxi province is offering discounted scenic site tickets or free entrance to tourists on Tuesday.
But Chinese independent film Dear You has become an unexpected hit this spring, driving cultural tourism wave in southern China. Gao Yiming explains why the story is charming audiences.
A low-budget independent film has turned into an unexpected sensation in China. Dear You has captivated the hearts of audiences at Chinese cinemas, earning a rating of 9.1 out of 10 on review platform and leading daily box office charts for 9 days straight. The film was produced with a budget of just $1.5 million, but grossed $83 million domestically since its release on May the 3rd. It tells a touching story of a young man's journey from Chaoshan to Thailand to look for his grandfather, when he discovered a heartwarming secret of remittance letters sent to his grandmother. Filmed entirely in the southern Chinese dialect of Teochew, the family drama has struck an emotional chord with viewers and sparked a tourism wave in the region.
After watching this movie, I truly feel that as Chaoshan people always have a spirit of forging ahead, deep nostalgia for our hometown, and a perseverance to strive and struggle far away from home. I also dressed up as a grandmother to visit the movie shooting location in person, experiencing what it's like to live in as an elderly person in this ancient mansion.
I came here with my mom since she really wanted to pay a visit. So I brought her along, took photos for her, and helped her check in, acting as her personal photographer.
The film's success has been fueled in part by its connection to the broader history of the 19th century Nanyang or South Seas migration, when millions of people from southern China went overseas in search of a better life. A local museum in Shantou, Guangdong, has embraced a wave of visitors following the film's success. It is the first museum in China dedicated to Qiaopi culture, which refers to the remittance letters sent by overseas Chinese to their families back home, often combining money transfers with heartfelt messages.
Since the release of the film Dear You, the number of visitors coming to our museum has risen sharply. Every overseas remittance letter tells a story of overseas Chinese. These letters form a unique emotional bond connecting overseas Chinese and their families back home. They also embody the timeless virtues of overseas compatriots in those days: integrity, perseverance, enterprising spirit, and deep devotion to their hometown, which still touch people deeply to this day.
The film mainly focuses on family affection, yet I've found some remittance letters donated to the nation. When the country was in trouble, overseas Chinese merchants sent funds via these letters to support national and hometown construction. This is a profound spiritual insight far beyond what the movie conveys.
Across Chaoshan, travelers are following in the footsteps of Dear You. From historic streets to ancestral estates, the film's shooting locations are drawing growing crowds of visitors. Many visitors are also eager to try local cuisines. Chaoshan beef hot pot, clay pot porridge, and steamed rice rolls are adding flavors to their journeys. Cities including Shantou, Chaozhou, and Jieyang have launched themed travel routes inspired by the film, linking shooting locations with historical landmarks, food streets, and intangible cultural heritage sites. Many see the tourism and consumption waves triggered by Dear You's success as a vivid reflection of a wider shift in China's consumer market, as young people become increasingly interested in exploring and celebrating local cultures and traditions. Gao Yiming, CGTN.
And CGTN's Lara Parpin walks us through a historic district in Guangzhou and discusses two films that embody Cantonese cuisine and tradition.
In Old Guangzhou's Liwan district, you've got some of the best of Cantonese or Lingnan art here, such as iron and copper casting, Cantonese opera guild halls, lion dance heritage shops, herbal medicine and traditional tea shops, which we'll check out right now. Chinese culinary tradition has long acknowledged the role of food, and that includes tea, as medicine. This unassuming store is one of Guangzhou's oldest herbal tea shops, Wang Chunlong, and their bestseller is called 28 Flavors because it's got 28 herbs in it. 你好，
你好，要什么凉茶？
我想试试一杯班沙。
好。这是苦味的班沙，你要尝试一下。
Ban Sha reminds me of a Chinese film I've heard about and I'm hoping to see soon. It's a film titled 24 Flavors by Elaine Huang from Guangzhou. She says using the name of 24 Flavors for an herbal tea is an analogy for life's experiences that can range from bitter to sweet. Just right across this herbal tea shop is a popular traditional Cantonese restaurant, Lianshang Lo, established in the Qing Dynasty in 1889. Because Guangzhou's climate is humid, most dishes at Lianshang Lo are created with ingredients to alleviate dampness and detoxify. We tried their winter melon pot, pantang water chestnut cake, lily buds and steamed lotus seeds, and their signature lotus paste bun with salted egg yolk. Some movie trivia. The plot of the Chinese box office spy thriller Chou Xi sets a crucial scene in Lianshang Lo. This was Guangzhou in the days before the founding of the People's Republic of China in 1949. So here's my take. Visit Old Guangzhou, come to Liwan District, have a meal at Lianshang Lo, grab a bottle of Bansha herbal tea, and savor bitter and sweet, because that's what Guangzhou is all about. Historical, cinematic, and delightful.
It seemed that Lara had a great time in Guangdong there.
Delightful indeed.
And that's all for The World Today on CGTN. I'm Iduni in Beijing.
I'm Zheng Shi. Thanks so much for watching. Stay with CGTN.
This is The World Today.
Hello, I'm Jamie Owen. Welcome to the programme. Our top stories. Russia's President Vladimir Putin arrives in China for his state visit. He says ties between the two countries are at an unprecedented level. Our other headlines, the World Health Organization says it's concerned by the scale of the Ebola outbreak in Africa. Some experts warn it's spreading faster than previously thought. President Trump backs off resuming the attack on Iran as Gulf countries say more time is needed for negotiations. And
allumage P120 et décollage.
A new chapter in China-Europe space cooperation with this joint mission to unlock the secrets of Earth's magnetic shield. Russia's President Vladimir Putin has just arrived in China for his state visit. He was met at Beijing International Airport by China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Mr. Putin is due to hold talks with President Xi Jinping. In a video address before this trip, Mr. Putin said China and Russia are working to boost political, economic and defense ties, insisting the relationship is focused on peace and universal prosperity. Well, Tony Brenton is a former British ambassador to Russia. I asked him about the significance of this visit.
Well, I think it's come out by chance, obviously. Yuri Ushakov, President Putin's chief foreign policy honcho, has been setting up the meeting as a celebration of the 25th anniversary of the splendidly named Sino-Russian Treaty of Good Neighbourliness and Friendly Cooperation. And then what happened was that Trump, who was scheduled to have an earlier meeting, of course, with Mr. Xi, put that off because of the war in Iran. So that suddenly took place 4 days before the meeting with Putin. So the timing is accidental in a way. But from the Chinese point of view, it rather usefully demonstrates the current centrality of China in the way the world works.
In practical terms, how close is this relationship?
They have complementary economies. Russia is largely a raw materials producer, oil, gas, various rare metals. China, by contrast, is very much a technology and industrial producer. So each has lots of demand for what the other produces. So there are lots of reasons why the relationship is strong. What is striking to my eye as a cynical old diplomat is that I've seen lots of heads of government meeting together, smiling together for the cameras, who actually don't like each other very much. My impression is that Xi Jinping and Vladimir Putin do actually get on personally rather well. And they find things to talk about and share not necessarily political issues, which means they've been meeting an extraordinary number of times. This is Mr. Putin's 25th visit to China. And overall, they've met 40 times altogether. It's a quite remarkable relationship in those terms alone.
What would a good visit look like when it's over? I mean, what should we look out for?
A good visit will look like, first of all, agreement on the big pressing international issues, notably the Iran war, where I think that China and Russia are both appalled by what the United States is up to. But secondly, some important pieces of bilateral business, most notably progress on agreeing on the big Power of Siberia 2 pipeline, which has been in the works for a long, long time. This is a gas pipeline from Russia to China, which would double Russia's ability to export gas to China. It's important economically to Russia, who are under some economic pressure at the moment because of Western sanctions, but is also more likely to be agreed, if not at this meeting, then in the relatively near future, because suddenly supplies of energy worldwide have become much less predictable as a result of the war in Iran. So there are real hopes, I think, there, notably on the Russian side, that they'll make real progress on that.
What does the rest of the diplomatic and the rest of the international community, I wonder, make of this visit? What should they make?
Well, firstly, they'll be unsurprised, since, as I've said, the closeness of Chinese-Russian relations has become a permanent feature, apparently, of the international landscape. They were, well, speaking for the West, which is a bit of the international community which I know best, there will be annoyance that real deals, continuing ability of Russia to export oil and gas to China makes the economic collapse of Russia, which in any case is not a near contingency, makes the economic collapse of Russia that much further apart and makes Russia that much more confident in its war in Ukraine.
Well, as Beijing and Moscow continue to strengthen their relationship, there's a growing appetite in Russia for learning Chinese. Some start early. Kindergartens now teach children their first words in Mandarin. Our correspondent Dasha Chernyshova reports.
From songs to games, even snack time, everything here is designed to immerse toddlers in two languages at once. Teachers, only native speakers, use play-based learning to introduce vocabulary naturally through repetition and daily routines.
It's very challenging, but because we're all native Chinese speakers, so we just keep talking Chinese to them. And it's very difficult at first because this case, they didn't know anything about Chinese in Chinese. So you have to be very expressive and physical when you talk to them. Like, no, you can't do this. Or like, good job. Like you have to let them see what you're talking about and what you're saying. I think I can see the results in 1 week, just 1 week, 5 days after I got a new bunch of kids. They'll say 上厕所, that means go to the bathroom in Chinese to us. And they'll say 喝水, that means drink water to us in Chinese.
Across Russia, demand for Asian languages, especially Chinese, is rising fast. As ties between Moscow and Beijing deepen, many parents see bilingualism not as a bonus, but as a necessity.
Initially, we thought that the demand would only be for English, but over time we learned that people bring children to us from afar, not only from the nearest homes, because of Chinese. Perhaps such parents expect that it will help their children in the future. And that should help, because teaching a child from early age to use brain intensively, giving them Chinese, we open a whole universe. Learning one thing, they get interest in another. Culture, cuisine, places in China. Our magical teachers begin to talk about places, events, holidays in China, even fairy tales. All this develops interest and clings the child to the future. Such children don't have time to be bored or wasted on their phones.
Programs like these are also preparing children for a future where academic exchanges and professional links with China are more common.
In a city thousands of kilometers from Beijing, these children are growing up with China already part of their everyday lives. And from classrooms like this, that connection could shape their future, one word at a time. Dasha Chernyshova, CGTN, Moscow.
China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi has met his counterpart from the Seychelles in Beijing. This comes as China and the Seychelles mark 50 years of diplomatic relations. Wang Yi said the countries have supported each other over the decades, while the Seychelles Foreign Minister thanked China for implementing the zero-tariff policy on African countries that have diplomatic ties with China. The World Health Organization says it's deeply concerned about the scale of the Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of Congo. At least 131 people are suspected to have died from this current strain, with over 500 other cases suspected. At least one health worker has tested positive, and another death has been reported in neighboring Uganda.
This epidemic is caused by Bundibujo virus, a species of Ebola virus for which there are no vaccines or therapeutics. In the absence of a vaccine, there are many other measures countries, of course, can take to stop the spread of this virus and save lives.
Our correspondent Chris Okamringa reports now from Kinshasa.
Racing against time to stop the spread of the Ebola virus. UN agencies are scaling up the delivery of medical supplies to Ituri province following the confirmation of the infectious disease on Friday. The WHO has prompted global partners to aid the DRC government.
This is a local challenge needing leadership on the front lines, and we're going to have it and we're going to support it. But this local challenge can go global in an instant. And those are the stakes that we're all aware of, pushing a pandemic to where it belongs and ending it.
The outbreak caused by the Bundibujo strain has been reported in Uganda. Authorities have also confirmed a case in the Congolese capital, Kinshasa. In both cases, patients are believed to have traveled from Ituri.
International health organizations have mobilized more than 600 kilograms of medical supplies
to support the DRC government to treat Ebola patients and stop the spread of the contagious disease that has occurred in a region affected by conflicts.
Officials fear that displacement of populations and cross-border trade may hinder response efforts.
I think that the main challenge we are going to face in Ituri is the population, because the population there is very, very important, and they're going they go everywhere. So you know that there are many traders there, so the people are going everywhere. This is the big issue we challenge there.
Countries bordering the DRC are considered high risk. The WHO has urged them to enhance surveillance and report cases. Rwanda has closed its border with the DRC in the western province of Rubavu following the announcement. The latest Ebola outbreak is the 17th in the DRC since 1976. Scientists say the disease spreads through contact with the bodily fluids of infected people. Chris Ochamringa, CGTN, Kinshasa.
You're watching CGTN. Still ahead, Chinese and European scientists successfully launched this mission to explore Earth's magnetic shield.
Welcome to This Way Forward.
What do we mean when we talk about the difference? The difference is in the detail, the background,
defense ministers from
the wider angle and perspective of every story, wherever the story may be. CGTN. See the difference.
We are all connected. Across borders, across continents, connected by ideas, a shared humanity. Stay connected.
Hello, welcome back. A reminder of our top story. Russia's President Vladimir Putin arrives in China for a state visit. He says ties between the two countries are at an unprecedented level. Well, let's get more on President Putin's visit to China. Andrei Fedorov is a former Russian deputy foreign minister.
This close cooperation does mean that we are standing absolutely on the same ground on all the issues. And it will be one of the main topic in Putin's visit to China to understand where we are, where we're together and where we are not very much together.
From Moscow's perspective, how significant is this visit?
It's very important because China for us, we can call China for us as a safety belt. From the economic point of view, and of course key foreign policy partner, especially in the current situation. And it's very important that this visit is going on soon after Mr. Donald Trump's visit to Beijing. And it's very important for Putin to understand whether this Trump's visit made some changes in the Chinese foreign policy or not.
Energy, of course, expected to be a major part of the agenda. Just how important is China now as a market for Russian oil and gas?
It's a main market now because there are pipelines, first of all, and Russia wants very much to get agreement on a new gas pipeline, Power of Siberia 2, which can compensate huge losses in our previous gas cooperation with Europe.
For Russian Gazprom company, it's major projects for the future because it can guarantee for about 10 years, 10, 15 years of intensive work, and it can really increase the market. And also it's quite possible that some of the gas that we will deliver to China could be later on from China delivered to other countries in the region.
What do you think would count as a successful visit from Moscow's perspective?
First of all, to confirm that we are on the same ground, and expected joint political statement by Putin and Xi will be an example of it. And altogether, about 40 documents will be signed during this visit, and 21 of them will be signed personally by Putin and Xi Jinping.
Iran says its latest peace proposal to the United States calls for the end of hostilities on all fronts, including Lebanon, and reparations for war damage. State media said Tehran also wants sanctions lifted and an end to the US blockade in the Strait of Hormuz. President Trump says he's paused the plan to resume attacks on Iran after a request from Qatar, Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Well, Iran's president has defended negotiations with the United States, saying dialogue doesn't mean surrender. In a rare admission, Masoud Pezeshkian also acknowledged the country's economic challenges, including sanctions and war damage. Iran's stock market reopened on Tuesday after an 80-day closure due to the war. Israel has carried out more strikes on Lebanon and issued evacuation orders for 12 towns in the country. That's despite the extension of the US-backed truce. At the same time, Hezbollah announced new attacks on Israeli forces. On Monday, Lebanon's health ministry said more than 3,000 people had been killed in the country since the war began in March. At least 2 people have been killed and 17 others injured by a Russian strike in Ukraine's Prolukhi. This follows another Russian attack with 1 woman dying in Kharkiv. Meanwhile, a NATO jet shot down a stray Ukrainian drone over Estonia. The country's defense minister said Ukraine did not have permission to use its airspace. 2 teenage suspects are among 5 dead in a shooting at a mosque in San Diego in California, an incident being investigated as a hate crime. The gunman opened fire, killing a security guard and 2 other men before shooting themselves. The mother of one of the suspects had earlier alerted the police that her son left home carrying weapons. Cuba's president has warned that a United States military assault on his country would cause a bloodbath. Miguel Diaz-Canel was speaking as Washington imposed new sanctions on 11 officials in Havana. Cuba's president said the island is enduring multi-dimensional aggression from Washington, including an oil embargo affecting power networks. Elon Musk says he'll appeal after his legal action against OpenAI co-founder Sam Altman was thrown out. He'd accused Altman of breach of contract by turning the ChatGPT maker into a profit-making company following a $38 million donation. The court ruled Musk had waited too long to file legal action. The Smile Space Explorer has successfully launched on a mission to better understand space weather and how the Earth is protected from the sun. Taking off from French Guiana, the craft made contact with Earth and deployed its solar panels, allowing the sun to power its systems. This marks the first time the European Space Agency and the Chinese Academy of Sciences have jointly designed, launched and operated a mission. So why do we need to know more about the weather in space? Our correspondent Jen Copestake explains.
Every second, the sun hurls streams of charged particles towards the Earth, a constant flow of solar winds. We are able to survive this onslaught because we are protected by an invisible shield called the magnetosphere. Until now, we haven't fully understood how the magnetosphere works and how these winds affect it. The satellite launched in the SMILE mission will be able to orbit far enough away from the Earth to see this process for the first time. SMILE will have 4 key instruments on board. The first is the soft X-ray imager. Its design is inspired by the eye of a lobster and will aim to capture the first ever X-ray images of Earth's magnetosphere. This will show where the solar wind compresses the magnetosphere and where energy breaks through, causing auroras in the night sky. The second instrument is the ultraviolet imager. It will observe the auroras above the poles, tracking where energy from space enters Earth's atmosphere. It connects the activity we can't see in space with the light show we can see on Earth. The third instrument is called the magnetometer. It measures the strength and direction of the solar wind's magnetic fields before they reach the Earth. This will help scientists determine how powerful a solar storm could become. And the light ion analyzer is the fourth instrument. It will measure the particles carried in the solar winds, revealing what is hitting the Earth's magnetosphere and how much energy it contains. Solar storms can disrupt satellites, communication systems, and power networks across the planet. By giving scientists here on Earth a full view of the magnetosphere, SMILE could help improve space weather forecasts and help to prevent disruption of the modern technology that our lives rely on.
Well, apart from that, why is it so important to understand space weather?
Yes, so as we're hearing, space weather affects everything from GPS systems, communications, even aviation, electricity grids. But for astronauts, the risks are even greater for radiation. The International Space Station is in the low Earth orbit within the magnetosphere, so that gives it a degree of protection. However, future space missions are going to be there's the ambitions that they will travel further afield. That's where the data from SMILE could be key. So beyond the magnetosphere, where astronauts could be exposed to those much higher levels of radiation, where it could damage the equipment that they're using, that could also pose serious health risks. So we have seen that we're going into a new era of space exploration. We're seeing more satellite launches, longer missions, even plans to return humans to the moon. Beyond that, going to Mars one day. This is a whole system in action that we're going to see from what SMILE is recording as far as the magnetosphere, as far as solar radiation and the storms and their impact on instruments, on space flight. So researchers are hoping that this will improve their ability to forecast in space for those astronauts that are going to be going on these critical missions. That will create an early warning system for mission control to forecast solar activity, that's very dangerous solar activity, and give much more ability to understand the hazards that are facing us as we travel further into space.
Jen, thank you. Our correspondent, Jen Copestake. Well, our correspondent Wu Lei has been speaking to some of the Chinese scientists involved in designing the SMILE satellite.
SMILE was first proposed in 2015 as a collaborative mission between China and Europe. After more than 10 years of designing, developing, building, and testing, SMILE is now in orbit. Earlier, I traveled to Shanghai and spoke with some engineers who were in charge of assembling this satellite.
The primary scientific objective is to perform global imaging of the large-scale structures in Earth's space environment using soft X-ray and ultraviolet bands, revealing the processes and evolutionary patterns of solar-wind magnetosphere interaction.
Scientists have installed 4 scientific payloads on the SMILE satellite. The European Space Agency is in charge of the payload module, while the platform module is under responsibility of Chinese Academy of Sciences.
What makes SMILE even more special is that we have 2 imagers on board, and this is the first time that this is being done for this kind of missions.
This is the first task-level deep collaboration between Chinese Academy of Sciences and European Space Agency.
From system concepts to engineering reality, I evolved with this project.
To reach higher orbit, these engineers had to reduce the weight of structured parts, updated their designs and structures to make the best use of the material and function of the satellite.
Through 10 rounds of optimization, we minimized the form factor while ensuring the structure met all qualification requirements.
In a world where cooperation is key to tackling some of the universal challenges, SMILE is a perfect example of how people can achieve more together. Besides SMILE, China and Europe have forged a continuous partnership in space exploration. Wu Lei, CGTN, Beijing and Shanghai.
And if that's whetted your appetite, scan this QR code to get our Facebook page for the full interview with the SMILE mission's chief designer, Li Huawang. Back down to earth. Juliet next with Global Business Europe. What have you got?
Well, not quite, because we're talking everything AI, from stock market listings to collaboration between China and the United States. And you know, AI Plus, that's core strategy that's so much part of China's modernization drive. So they're trying to embed it into every step of every part of society. So we're zoning in on education and a campus which has put AI into every aspect of the classroom. It's really interesting stuff. It's the future.
It's the future. Juliet, here with the future in a minute or so. Here and now, the headlines again. Russia's President Vladimir Putin arrives in China for his state visit. He says ties between the two countries are at an unprecedented level. Our other headlines, the World Health Organization says it's concerned by the scale of the Ebola outbreak in Africa. Some experts warning it's spreading faster than previously thought. And President Trump backs off resuming his attack on Iran as Gulf countries say more time is needed for negotiations. And that is the world today. Thank you for watching. There's more news on CGTN Europe's channel on the Telegram app, or scan this QR code on your screen to get stories and updates sent direct to your phone. Coming up next, Juliet with Global Business Europe. For now, from all of the news team in London, it's goodbye.
Facing the unknown is always difficult. In a world in turmoil, it's easy to lose orientation. But when the storms come, we have to see the possibilities, reinvent, find new opportunities, discover a path forward. CGTN. See the difference.
Hello, I'm Juliette Mann. Welcome to Global Business Europe. Our top stories. China and the US signal closer cooperation on AI after constructive talks in Beijing. How AI is becoming part of everyday classroom life in China. We visit the campus putting artificial intelligence at the heart of education. Russia's President Vladimir Putin arrives in China for a state visit. He says ties between the two countries are at an unprecedented level. And Samsung extends marathon union talks in a bid to avert an historic strike. China's foreign ministry says President Xi Jinping and US President Donald Trump held constructive talks on AI in Beijing last week. The countries have agreed to hold intergovernmental dialogue on artificial intelligence and work together to ensure AI serves human civilization.
作为两个人工智能大国
As two major countries in the field of artificial intelligence, China and the United States should work together to promote the development and governance of artificial intelligence, so as to enable AI to better serve the progress of human civilization and the common well-being of the international community.
Let's speak to our correspondent Mitch McGann, who joins us from New York. Hi there, Mitch. So what will increased cooperation in the AI sector mean for the US?
Yeah, good afternoon from New York. This is certainly very interesting, and that's a good question. I mean, we have these details from China's foreign ministry that you just played there, and I think it's worth reiterating that they said the two leading AI powers, China and the US, need to work together to promote development and improve the governance of AI. Now, that spokesperson went on to say that during the visit last week between Trump and President Xi, they agreed to this government-to-government dialogue in AI. It's also important to know Donald Trump made some comments on this last week on Air Force One on the way back to Washington. He said, he gave a little bit more information around what these discussions entailed, saying that he and President Xi worked on, or discussed working on guardrails for AI together when they were at those meetings last week. Now, it's sort of unclear at this stage, you know, whether these are operational or governance guardrails, perhaps focusing on, you know, collaboration regarding cybersecurity, but this is something that's going to be watched very closely in the coming months to see what this actually means. One of the things that we'll be watching closely in the coming days, in fact, is whether or not this will have an impact on some of the major US AI or chip companies like NVIDIA. Now, we know that Jensen Huang was in Beijing last week with the president. He's obviously had a difficult time in getting his most high-tech chips into China, and we're yet to really hear if he made any progress on that with meetings that he's had while he was over there. So we'll be watching closely to see if this means increased cooperation, or increased cooperation rather means increased business for places like NVIDIA. On that point as well, Advanced Micro Devices Chief Executive Lisa Su has been in China. She's met with China's Vice Premier, and the Vice Premier said that China welcomes companies like AMD to seize opportunities in China's development. So overall here, I think we're seeing much deeper signs of cooperation, you know, already, even just after a week of this Trump-Xi meeting in Beijing. But it's going to be interesting to see what they actually mean by dialogue in the months ahead.
And Mitch, something else interesting is that we've seen Elon Musk's lawsuit against OpenAI being thrown out by a court. How consequential is that?
Well, look, it's significant for the fact that, you know, Elon Musk is the world's richest man. He lost a high-profile court case where, you know, according to what I was reading, the jury only deliberated for around a couple of hours. So it's significant as well that Musk has now vowed to appeal this decision. He wrote on X, which he owns, by the way, that the jury did not decide this case on the merits of the case. He said that the decision was based on a calendar technicality. I think the essence here is important. So the essence of this case is that Elon Musk claims that OpenAI, led by Sam Altman, deceived him by taking his money, then turning the company into a for-profit business, which Musk didn't want. You know, the jury here decided that this claim fell outside the statute of limitations, which in the US is the time allowed to bring a case. So that was the important thing here. In some ways, you could say it was a technicality, but there's certainly some interesting reporting around this, suggesting that, you know, some legal scholars are even surprised that this case made it to court. So it's going to be interesting to see if Elon Musk has any luck with an appeal, if a jury has already ruled that this fell outside of the statute of limitations.
Now, Mitch, you and I are often talking about how the rise of AI might affect the jobs market. And Standard Chartered is cutting thousands of jobs while investing heavily in AI. Could this become the new banking model, do you think?
Well, I think that's going to be the worry, Juliet, for a lot of people. This is going to come as a major blow to thousands in this company, Standard & Chartered, in what really is generally a high-paying industry. The company said it plans to cut almost 8,000 jobs over the next 4 years, up until 2030, and that's been driven by automation and the adoption of AI. And this is the concern that, well, there's a concern for the wider industry because this isn't the only company doing that. Mizuho Financial Group in Japan, it was reported earlier this year, plans to replace 5,000 jobs there over the next 10 years, blaming AI as one of the reasons for the move. Another major bank, the Singaporean bank DBS, stated its intention to cut 4,000 jobs as AI takes on more work. So certainly something to be watching more closely for. In the US, we haven't seen as much of this yet, or it hasn't been announced publicly, but this is something that's going to be concerning for another industry. When there are so many industries and employees worried about AI taking their jobs, we are really seeing that happen now in the financial sector.
Mitch McGann in New York, thank you very much. China's leading memory chip maker, Yangtze Memory Technologies, could be valued at more than $100 billion as it prepares for a potential listing in China. The Wuhan-based company has begun pre-IPO guidance with state-backed investment group CITIC. YMTC competes with global chip makers including Micron, Samsung Electronics and SK Hynix, and is seen as central to China's push for semiconductor self-reliance. Alibaba Group is expected to release a new version of its Qwen AI model on Wednesday. Qwen's become one of the world's most widely used AI models, with more than 600 million downloads globally. It's currently ranked as the world's third most popular AI model after ChatGPT and Tencent's Doubao, with monthly users exceeding 230 million worldwide. Barclays says AI-powered robots could help tackle labour shortages worldwide. The bank says AI advances are speeding up the deployment of humanoid robots, which are set to reshape productivity. Barclays estimates the global humanoid robotics market could be worth up to $200 billion by 2035. It says China's at the centre of the global robotics economy. In China, artificial intelligence is part of a national strategy known as AI+. Beijing aims to accelerate modernisation by integrating AI into all aspects of society. And one key area of focus is education. CGTN's Huang Ye visited a high school in Beijing where AI is already part of daily campus life.
This is a high school mathematics class, but perhaps not the kind you would expect. A group of 10th grade students are tackling a real-world challenge, designing a wildfire prevention system for a forest reserve. Students use AI tools to help build mathematical models, analyze data, and simulate emergency response plans.
When we do data modeling, I usually first come up with my own approach and then use AI to help improve and refine it.
Even though AI can be very helpful, I still question some of the information it gives me because it's not always accurate.
The class is part of China's broader push to integrate artificial intelligence into education. Earlier this year, China unveiled a national AI Plus education initiative aimed at building a comprehensive AI education system by 2030. For many students here, AI has already become part of everyday learning, not simply as a tool for finding answers, but as a partner for exploration and creation.
This robotic hand could be used in situations that require very precise operations but are also dangerous for people. It could help humans carry out those tasks more safely.
This is designed for safe skiing. If your body leans too far and you're about to fall, the phone will vibrate to warn you. Then you can adjust your posture. Once your balance is restored, the vibration stops and you can keep skiing safely.
From these award-winning robots to student design engineering projects, it's clear that AI education here is moving beyond traditional textbooks. And the goal is not only to teach students how to use it, but also how to create, innovate, and solve problems with it from an early age.
If children start learning about AI from primary school, they may be able to achieve meaningful results long before they reach university. We could see their creativity in AI emerge at a very early age. AI is still a fast-growing field, and if students begin early, China could have the opportunity to become a global leader in this area.
Schools like this one are offering a glimpse into how China hopes to prepare the next generation for the age of artificial intelligence. And for many students, the bigger lesson may no longer be simply how to use AI, but how to shape their own future with it. Huang Yue, CGTN, Beijing.
AI education holds enormous business potential. The global AI-powered education market is expected to surpass $20 billion by 2027 as governments worldwide race to transform their education systems and prepare students for the age of algorithms. However, the reality is that not all students are treated equally. According to the United Nations, around 87% of students in high-income countries have internet access at home. In low-income countries, that figure drops to just 6%. And more broadly, that means around 2.2 billion people worldwide remained offline in 2025. Dr. Xiaobing Wang is a senior lecturer in China economics at the University of Manchester. Great to have you on the show. Now, look, China's moving quickly to bring AI into classrooms, but with billions still offline globally, is AI in education becoming the next great digital divide?
The short answer is yes. We are seeing a brand new digital divide taking shape right before our eyes. And we have many developed countries that have AI access to all people, to all students. But we also have many developing countries that do not have even access to basic electricity. And not only just electricity, but internet access. And now to make things more complicated, they need AI, and AI needs a lot of electricity and needs a lot of infrastructure. And for poor people in poor countries, they do not have that. And this will create a new, much profound divide than ever before.
So, I mean, across much of the global south, the challenge is still that basic internet access. So how can economies really compete in an AI-driven world if students remain digitally unconnected?
I mean, this is a really tough question, not only for the poor countries, but also to the students, because this will create not only just a knowledge gap, resources, poverty can be transferred into a sort of cognitive poverty, in a sense that they will not have the capability to learn a new technology and not having the capability to cope with the new world. And the challenge is that the government of those poor countries should know how to prioritize things, how to build infrastructure and AI-enabled infrastructure, etc. So this is really tough, but they need to get it on and do it.
Now, AI is full of promise, isn't it? You know, personalised learning, wider access to education. So could it help developing economies leapfrog chronic shortages of teachers, of educational resources?
I think this is actually one of the most exciting promises of AI. Yes, to some extent, it's absolutely difficult for those countries to catch up. But on the other hand, it can be a saver to some of the countries in terms of the resources. For example, they do not have enough teachers, highly qualified teachers, etc. But now with the AI, some of the resources gap can be met by the AI itself. So AI can help students to learn, can help teachers to prepare their lessons, etc. So in this sense, if they use it wisely, it can be a tool to leapfrog the gap before.
Dr. Xiaobing Wang at the University of Manchester, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has arrived in China for a state visit. He was met at Beijing International Airport by China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi. Putin is due to hold talks with President Xi Jinping. In a video address ahead of the trip, Putin said China and Russia are working to boost political, economic and defence ties, insisting the relationship is focused on peace and universal prosperity. Russian businesses are looking to deepen trade and investment ties with China at the China-Russian Expo in Harbin. Our reporter Guo Qiangqi spoke to exhibitors from Russian state-owned tech giant Rostec about opportunities for cooperation.
Famous Russian helicopters have caught many visitors' eyes at the expo. Sergei from Rostec also looks forward to communicating with Chinese exhibitors.
The first one is Mi-17, the most common, the most popular model all over the world. It has a lot of different modifications and can be used in a very many variants of exploitation. First of all, it's for transportation for personnel and cargoes. Also, it can be used with search and rescue operation.
So what kind of project do you most expect to see in this expo?
Machines and equipment, I think. It is more interesting, like a big producing plant for us. And Chinese is famous for its machine and equipment. This field of economics is developing very well nowadays in China.
Dozens of meters away in the Chinese exhibition zone, various aero-engine models for passenger planes, cargo drones and helicopters are on show.
It's our first visit and it is really interesting for us because there are a lot of new development industry in China, and it is very interesting to have a look, and maybe we may have some cooperation in the future to know the projects of local producers.
Products covering the entire helicopter industrial chain are presented in full at the expo.
This type of machines and equipment are often used in helicopter production because of the production cycle, because there are a lot of metals that need to be made and shaped.
The willingness for cooperation goes both ways.
We have full confidence in the Russian market. Since 2022, the share of our products exported to Russia has risen from 10% to 50%. Chinese products boast high-cost performance and stable output. We will keep expanding production capacity to meet the needs of Russian clients.
The China-Russia Expo is the largest comprehensive exchange platform between the two nations, and business cooperation and exchanges between China and Russia are getting increasingly closer thanks to visa-free policies.
How often do you come to China?
Like 4 or 5 times in a year, and for me, avoiding visa barriers is very suitable because no need to go through all the bureaucracy. When you need to go fast, you can just pack your things and go and do your business here.
Complementary industrial strengths and deepening exchanges drive closer integration between Chinese and Russian businesses, paving the way for high-value development and solid industrial chain coordination. Guo Tianqi, CGTN, Harbin, Heilongjiang Province.
This is Global Business Europe. Still ahead. Last-ditch talks are underway at tech giant Samsung as the company tries to avoid what could become the biggest strike in its history.
Everything is a business story.
Welcome back to Global Business Europe with me, Juliette Mann. The headlines. China and the US signal closer cooperation on AI after constructive talks in Beijing. And Russia's President Vladimir Putin arrives in China for a state visit. He says ties between the two countries are at an unprecedented level. Tech giant Samsung is under pressure to agree a deal with labour unions and avert a damaging strike. Nearly 48,000 workers are threatening to start an 18-day walkout later this week. Shane Harm reports.
Samsung Electronics and its labor union remain locked in a tense dispute over wages and bonuses, despite entering a second consecutive day of negotiations. At the heart of the standoff is the question of how employees should share in the company's profits, particularly as global demand for AI-related chips continues to surge. The union is calling for higher performance bonuses, greater transparency in the way those bonuses are calculated, and the removal of a long-standing cap on incentive pay. Samsung says it is open to improving compensation packages, but argues that the union's demands would place a significant financial burden on the company and could constrain future investment in research, manufacturing facilities, and emerging technologies. The dispute is drawing heightened attention because Samsung Electronics is one of the world's largest memory chip producers and a critical supplier to major global technology firms. Any prolonged disruption could place additional strain on semiconductor supply chains already facing intense pressure from booming AI demand. The Republic of Korea government is also warning that a strike could have wider economic consequences as semiconductors remain one of the country's most important export industries. Some reports suggest that a prolonged work stoppage could reduce the nation's annual GDP growth by as much as 0.5 percentage point. Officials are now considering emergency arbitration measures should the dispute escalate further. At the same time, the standoff reflects a broader transformation within Samsung itself. For decades, the company was known for its resistance to organized labor, but labor unions have expanded rapidly in recent years, giving employees greater bargaining power than ever before. With both sides still appearing far apart on several key demands, uncertainty continues to grow over whether Samsung can avoid a strike later this week at a particularly critical moment for the global semiconductor industry. Shane Hom, CGTN, Seoul.
The European Union is expected to drop import duties on US goods in an effort to stave off President Trump's threat of higher tariffs. Negotiators are meeting in Strasbourg, hoping to finalise terms for a deal acceptable to Washington. It comes almost a year after the US President and Commission Chief Ursula von der Leyen agreed the accord in Scotland. Well, let's go to Will Denslow, who's in Brussels for us. Hi there, Will. So, what can we expect from these talks?
Well, Juliet, essentially the message from Washington is very simple, that they have run out of patience and that they want the European institutions to get together and ratify this deal, put it into practice once and for all, a deal that would essentially scrap tariffs on US goods coming to Europe. In exchange, it would see a basket of European goods exported to the US capped at a 15% duty. Should agreement between the EU's various institutions not be reached by July 4th, President Trump has announced that he will raise tariffs on European cars to 25%. The sticking point, though, is that lawmakers are divided on whether to introduce safeguards as part of this deal. There's speculation about including a sunrise clause. Now, Juliet, essentially this would mean that no deal would come into force unless the US were to drop tariffs on steel products that are currently as high as 50% down to 15%. Now, that is just one of the sticking points for the EU institutions, but there is the other side of the camp that are worried about pushing too much, drawing the ire of the Trump administration, and simply want to see this deal that was agreed between Ursula von der Leyen, the Commission President, and President Trump in Scotland last summer. They say that it is high time it comes into effect and this trade deal can begin to work and get this transatlantic relationship that has been somewhat rocky over the implementation of this deal really back on track. Juliet?
Will Denslow in Brussels, thank you very much. Well, let's take a look at some of the other business stories making headlines today. Stellantis and Leapmotor plan to build affordable electric vehicles in Italy starting in 2028. China's announced a major discovery of heavy rare earth minerals in the country's northeast, a find that could reshape its rare earth landscape. Iran has reopened its stock market for the first time since the conflict with the United States began. And International has signed world #1 tennis player Carlos Alcaraz as its official brand ambassador. As it prepares to share World Cup hosting duties with North American neighbours Canada and the US, Mexico is enjoying a special distinction, set to become the only country to take on the role 3 times. And in cities like Pachuca, football is far more than just a game. As CGTN's Alistair Baverstock reports, the sport is woven into daily life, family memories and national identity.
Mexico will become the first country ever to host 3 FIFA World Cups, an important achievement for a country that lives and breathes football. In Mexico, they say football isn't played, it's felt. And there's no better place to understand that than here in Pachuca, the city where the beautiful game first took root in this country more than a century ago. This mining town north of the capital is home to the first professional football club in the Americas, founded by English miners who migrated to the region in the mid-19th century. Today, its fans are among the most dedicated in the country.
It's a constant passion. I walk past the stadium every day. Every day I see posts about the football club. Every day I follow the players and their stories and the history around the sport here. For us, football is always the centre of attention.
As the Liga MX, the country's top-tier football league, comes to its season's close, this year's playoffs are serving as an appetizer ahead of the international tournament starting June 11th.
We follow the World Cup with passion, and everyone is hoping that our side can get past the quarter-finals this year, which has never happened, and make Mexico proud.
Despite numerous concerns ahead of this World Cup, exorbitant ticket prices, inadequate infrastructure and security risks, to name a few, this country's football-mad public say they are ready to receive like-minded visitors from across the world. Right in town is the World Football Hall of Fame, where managing director Veronica Sanchez sees exactly what Mexico's ongoing relationship with football's greatest stage means to visitors.
We've had grandparents visiting the Hall of Fame with their children and grandchildren, and many of them leave with tears in their eyes. They'll say the place and the sport bring back so many memories from their lives. It really stirs emotions. Football is a passion like no other.
As the World Cup approaches, Mexico's burning passion for the beautiful game is reaching fever pitch. Alistair Baverstock, CGTN, Pachuca, Mexico.
The headlines. China and the US signal closer cooperation on AI after constructive talks in Beijing. Russia's President Vladimir Putin arrives in China for a state visit. He says ties between the two countries are at an unprecedented level. And Samsung extends marathon labour talks in a bid to avert an historic strike. And that is it for Global Business Europe. Thanks for watching. Coming up next on CGTN Africa Live. We'll see you again tomorrow. Same time, same place. From all the team here in London. Goodbye.
Russian President Vladimir Putin arrives in Beijing for a state visit. President Donald Trump says the United States may need to hit Iran again within days if an agreement is not reached. And the DR Congo races to contain an Ebola outbreak with neighboring countries on high alert. Hello and welcome to Africa Live. As always, great to have you with us. I'm Richard Ntal, live in Nairobi, and for those of you joining us from across the continent and around the globe, we thank you for joining us. And tonight, I'm alongside my colleague Uche, who has our business headlines. Over to you, Uche.
Thank you, Richard. And here is a look at what's coming up on Africa Live Biz. Delegates discuss emerging opportunities around intra-Africa trade at the Biashara Africa Forum in Togo. And Zimbabwe's mining royalty policy helps to boost the country's gold reserves. Of course, all of that coming up within the program, but for now it is back to you, Richard.
Thank you so much, Uche. Once again, a very warm welcome to Africa Live. Let's begin with our top story. Russian President Vladimir Putin has begun his state visit to China. This is Putin's 25th visit to China. The Chinese Foreign Ministry says the cooperation between the two sides is bringing tangible benefits. CGTN's Zhao Yunfei reports from Beijing Capital International Airport.
For deepened bilateral ties and a more stable world, Russian President Vladimir Putin has arrived in Beijing on a state visit. Earlier, Putin had said in a video remark that Russia and China have jointly promoted cooperation in the most important areas. Russia hopes for greater mutual understanding between their two peoples. Putin is visiting at the invitation of President Xi Jinping. The two will exchange views on bilateral relations, cooperation in various fields, and international and regional issues of mutual interest. Just over the weekend, the two presidents sent congratulatory letters to the 10th China-Russia Expo in the northeastern Chinese city of Harbin. President Xi said the two countries should leverage their geographical proximity and complementary advantages. China has been Russia's largest trading partner for 16 consecutive years as the two countries advance their cooperation in trade, energy, culture, and infrastructure. Given the high degree of political mutual trust, China says Vladimir Putin's visit is an opportunity to continue elevating ties and inject positive energy into the world. Zhao Yunfei, CGTN, Beijing.
In a world of fractured alliances and